Welcome to Too Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, live. Maybe live isn't the right word, but we are on site here at Ardent Craft Ales in Richmond. I got my co-host Sam Jesse here. Sam, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great. It's been an awesome day. Like, the turnout today has been unreal. Every time we do a Sons of Saturday, Too Deep event of any sort, it blows my mind the outpouring of support we have, and also like the quality of people we have here. They're here to have fun. They're here to have some drinks. They're here to talk Hokie football. It's been a great day.
If you invite a bunch of people to a brewery and they show up, it turns out they want to drink beer. And so that has been very fun. And we are humbled by the amount of people that showed up in tech gear today coming out at Ardent. Next thing I had on the list, we didn't land Messiah Delhomme. It was a recruit that we were after big time, and it kind of felt like we were going to get him. And so when it didn't happen, it was disappointing. But we follow that up with the Snook Peterkin commitment, which was huge.
Huge. Maybe a bigger commitment. Number 7 total player in the state of North Carolina. Absolutely stole him from North Carolina State. Stole him. Every crystal ball was North Carolina State.
And his announcement video was pretty crazy.
His announcement video was great. Had his whole family up there. Another 4-star wide receiver. That room is stacked.
Yeah. Fontel Mines continues just to do it.
Makes me feel like Uden might be a DB.
I mean, at some point, one of these outstanding athletes that's committing to play wide receiver is going to end up at DB.
I have a feeling Uden is the DB. He's a little bit bigger body guy. I could see him playing safety or corner.
All right. The next thing I had was the Cover 3, a podcast that we both like a lot. We trust. I'm getting sun right in my face here. That's okay. Guys that we trust, Bud Elliott and Chip and Tom, all of them picked Tech with the over 8.5 wins this year. That's encouraging.
We talk about this a lot. Take off the orange and maroon glasses, sit them on the table. It's a good bet. If you look at this schedule, if you look at what this team is returning, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like, if you're betting on win totals, Virginia Tech over 8.5 makes sense. I have them at over 7.5 that I got early in the spring. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
From a betting perspective, I can see how Tech 9-10 wins is really, really attractive.
I went on the show with Gramlich and McLean.
Yep.
And this was, I can't remember if this was leading up to when ACC Network was on campus or right after, but it doesn't really matter. First of all, his cat coming on the screen was
hilarious.
So funny. But they only had good things to say for the most part about Tech. And he talked about Kyron specifically and how he's been more of a leader, been more vocal, demanding of the kids around him. And you really can only do that once you've shown a little bit of success.
Yeah, and they talked about that. They've talked about that in media sessions to the players, how he feels like more of a leader. He feels like this is his team. And a constant thing that's been talked about is communication before plays, during plays, in huddles. It feels like Virginia Tech is going to elevate themselves this year with the pre-snap communication on offense and defense.
Yeah.
Offensively, that's obviously led by Kyron Jones.
I love when Price said the thing like, are we blue collar or are we just saying that shit? Like, are we – don't talk about it, be about it.
Yeah. And I think that starts on the offensive line for sure. And they have guys here who we can talk about them, some decently highly rated recruits that have come in.
Yeah.
Young guys, redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores. Guys.
We're going to move to a little bit – it's not inside information, but just true camp stuff that me and Sam – we get off on this shit. We love this kind of stuff.
This is as neck deep as you can get.
And before we get there, could you make sure you like and subscribe on
YouTube?
YouTube, please. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, which I hope that you are.
Rate on Apple Podcasts,
the
Spotify,
brains aren't,
whatever you're doing.
I am drinking this big, juicy, hazy boy, so the brain isn't firing as well as it normally does, but that's okay. Camp notes, Sam. I've heard Colby was saying this on one of his updates. NFL scouts. More NFL scouts he's been seeing at camp than in recent memory. And that's really exciting.
I kind of equate it to what the baseball program has gone through. Like, when I first started covering the baseball program, no one was at the games. The last few years, you've had like multiple MLB scouts at every single game.
True, yeah.
I think the football program is seeing a little bit more of that with the talent that is in there. Tech is going to have 4 or 5 guys drafted next year, at least.
I mean, we went through our draft show. It could be as many as 9. It could be as few as 2.
And we've talked about guys like Dorian Strong has a first round ceiling. Who knows what's going to happen with Kyron? Who knows what's going to happen with some APR, whoever? You never know with these guys. So really exciting. Good for recruiting too.
I also saw that the team was practicing on turf. They were practicing at the Marching Virginians practice facility or whatever it's called.
Yes. So interestingly enough, the type of turf that is installed in the Beamer Lawson practice facility is the exact same turf that's at Vanderbilt Stadium. However, it is obviously inside, and you want to be able to get used to the hot turf and the hot conditions. It will be toasty in Nashville. So they moved to the Marching Virginians field, which is that exact same type of turf, but outside. So I think it's just trying to acclimate to the hot turf and the hot weather.
Yeah, it's the temperature difference because they said it was way hotter.
And if you've ever played a sport on hot turf, you know what we're talking about. It's different.
So let's talk about the defensive line, because these were a couple of the notes that were coming out of camp. Pry mentioned APR when he came in last year and how it showed guys you can rush the passer.
Yeah.
This isn't just stand your ground position. You can get in there, you can show bend, and you can get after the QB. And I think the guys really learned from that, and it opened their eyes. And that's what this year, pass rushing, it started last year, but the actual hitting the quarterback will be a bigger priority.
Yeah, and he probably talked about that. He said the first year he was here, they got after the quarterback a lot. They didn't finish those sacks. Last year, they finished those sacks, led the ACC. I think it's a bit of a rising tide lifts all boats situation here, where Virginia Tech feels like because they have APR on one edge will demand attention from offensive lines, it'll free up room for Keyshawn Burgos. It'll free up one-on-ones for some of those defensive tackles like Aeneas Peoples. I think they feel like as a group, they're going to be really good rushing the passer again.
And Nelson has been having a good camp.
Yes.
Not someone we necessarily think of when it comes to pass rushing, but the leadership he's shown and his growth last year is something that we had talked about. Moving to Perry, that is one of the better and more exciting notes I've seen come out of camp is Curtis Perry coming from Alabama, that highly rated kid. He is going to get a lot of snaps this year.
Yeah, we've talked about all offseason. If you can rotate a defensive tackle, it elevates your defense so much because I don't know if you've tried this, but at 300 pounds, I'm going to guess it's tough to deal with some of these hurry-up offenses. So if they can rotate 2-3 deep at those DTs positions, it elevates this defense so much.
And I also think Perry is going to be a hybrid. They can line him up. If you want to do a 3-man set, if you want to do a 5-man set, you can do all kinds of different things with him. And so that is really cool. And I'm if you think about what we had last year, defensive line, what we have this year, I'm starting to think this is going to be a better D-line. We have that opportunity to be better than we were last year.
The ceiling is higher, certainly. And I think that's what's important is because if you have a dominant defensive line, it can carry you through games more than a dominant secondary can at some point.
Do a beer review. And both Sam and I have flights.
You can't see it. It's just out of camera range. We do have flights right here.
And I'm going to ask Sam, give us a rapid fire. I'm going to ask you for some reviews of your beer.
Okay.
Go number one here on your list.
Number one, I have the Friday playlist. Looks pretty pale ale. We don't have a lot of details on this. The can isn't in front of us. The menu isn't in front of us. But it tastes like a Friday night beer. You can delete a few of those.
It's just like a regular.
I mean, it tastes like good beer.
Okay. All right. My number one is the Lime Radler.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of any kind of lime beer. I will do a Bud Light Lime. I'm not above it. And this thing is really good. A little bit more acidic than maybe I'd prefer.
Is that a lime wedge in there that they put in there for you? Or?
No, it's almost like green. It's just in the beer. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's good. The Lime Radler is pretty tasty.
Awesome.
Number two.
Awesome. And they also have a key lime sour here. That is like a lime margarita flavor. So if you're into the margarita flavor beers, really good. That hint of salty. My number two is the IPA 14. It's a nice amber color IPA. And it's pretty darn good. It's kind of that classic hoppy. It's not as citrusy. It's just kind of the hoppy flavor beer. I like that one a lot, actually, for an IPA. You can't crush as many as the Friday playlist, but it's a good one.
My number two is the Fest beer, and I'm a big fan of Oktoberfest in general. This one has not so much malt, which I actually do like.
Really, you think it didn't have a lot of malt?
I don't think so.
I thought it had a lot of malt.
Well, if you're comparing it to a Pilsner or the Friday playlist, and it's hard when you're having all these beers back to back, but I think it goes down pretty easy. I like the Fest beer.
It's definitely good. It's apparently a wheat beer, and it doesn't taste like a lot of wheat beers. It has, it's the camera doesn't do it quite justice. It's a very like golden brown.
I like that one.
It's a good one. Good one.
All right, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the 2 for 2. And when I first saw this port, I thought Harry Potter butterbeer. Like it looks like butterscotch Harry Potter drink.
It does, yeah.
And I don't know if I've put that in my head, but it tastes like a Butterfinger.
I've never had the butterbeer. I asked you. You've never been to Disney World and had the butterbeer?
Dude, I've never even read Harry Potter.
If you look into that thing was a raging success. Actually, I don't think it was at Disney World. It was at Universal.
Yeah, Universal.
But,
you made some people very angry.
Yeah,
right
I'm sorry. And
it's good though. It's like this is one where you have like a glass this size of it. It's pretty thick, definitely very juicy though. So it has that buttery, sweet flavor to it. Maybe a little caramel flavor to it as well, but very, very good.
I am drinking the X. This is Ardent's House IPA. It's their go-to. They've had it on tap for a long time. Their flagship, if you will. And I like that. It's not a hazy. It does look hazy in the glass. It's not a true New England, but it's an excellent tasting, straight up and down IPA. I would recommend the X. That's good.
Lime Goetze. I'm a Goetze fan. I'm a sour guy. This is really good.
Yeah, you love those. You love the sour beers, the Goetzes.
This is like you can taste both blackberry and lime. Usually they'll have the berry overpowering whatever else they say. Yeah. You can taste the lime in this one. So whoever the brewmaster is in Ardent really likes lime. He does a good job with it. So if you like the sour, if you like the fruity, the blackberry lime, really good.
I will say one of our listeners, we've had a lot of listeners come up to us today, which is awesome. And one of them was like, oh, I bought the Goza that Sam had on the pod, that watermelon one, and it was really good. And I'm like, sweet. We got our track record isn't so bad. My last one is the pop. And my buddy Brian, I'm staying with him and his wife. She loves this. It's in their fridge at home. And I guess it's a session. It's a little bit on the more lighter side, but hold on. Yeah, it's got that smooth, like a little bit of bitterness. No, there's no lactose. There's no sweet, but it's a good, easy drinking kind of session IPA.
That seems to be a theme with a lot of the beers. I've tried now 6 beers here. I've done a lot of these little 5-ouncers. Everything has been really solid and really drinkable. There hasn't been a beer yet. I haven't tried the like porters or anything, but there hasn't been a beer yet that is like, oh, I could maybe only do 5 ounces of that. Everything seems to be really palatable. Yeah. Even this like really juicy, really hazy one, it goes down pretty easy.
When I was starting drinking here today, I was like, all right, Pete, don't get the IPA right off the bat. You got a long day trying to be a nice host to our guests, which we do have a lot of guests, which is great. And so I went with a couple Pilsners and super good. Like not every Pilsner hits. Like sometimes they're a little too bitter. Really good Pilsners, really good selection. And another tap list. I talked about this when we went to Commonwealth, but it's built out really well. It's not just IPA heavy. You can get just about any variety of beer you want, they're all good.
They have a lot on their taproom list. Yeah. I'd say there's probably 20 beers up there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's if you're looking for a place where you want to try a bunch of different beers, this is a place because this is only like $3 for one of these guys.
Yeah, it's not bad.
A great value if you're in the Richmond Scott's Edition area and want a place to try a lot of beers. Ardent's a great spot.
And I got the giant pretzel, which I'm a pretzel snob. I'm from Philadelphia. Pretzels are a big thing up there.
Are pretzels a big thing in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, all throughout Pennsylvania. There's a big German influence, and especially if you go to western part of PA. So pretzels are big to me. Every bar in Philly, I've had every pretzel. So, and this one, it's good.
Awesome. Bonus pretzel.
And I needed to put some kind of base down there because I haven't eaten a proper meal today. So that's okay. But anyway, that's our beer review. All right, so let's go to Linebacker. Brumfield and McDonald have both been playing Mike.
Yep.
McDonald played Will last year. So the idea that he's switching positions, and he was decent there,
yep,
is interesting. And then you got Lawson, Keller, and Woodson at Will. I know Brumfield's going to be the starter at Mike.
Mm-hmm.
what is going to happen at will linebacker? Like,
I mean, you would feel like McDonald has to step up with how long he's been in the program. He's been consistent. Not a single great option.
To me, it sounds like Keller is going to be the starter. The what again, I know it's the Keller hype train, whatever you want to say, but he's getting a lot of talk. And if you ask me today, gun to my head, who's going to be starter at will, I think it's going to be Keller.
It wouldn't surprise me. I do think that is a position where you will see a lot of rotation, though. If there's any position on this defense that I think will see multiple starters in the first few games, it'll be that will position.
All right, Caleb Spencer has been getting a little love.
Yep.
At star, will, maybe a third down Mike linebacker. That's something Pride talked about.
Pride talked about that. The consensus for him has been great athlete, good player, great teammate, hard worker and all.
Yeah.
Probably a year away from a consistent 2-deep guy at linebacker. Sounds like he's more of a special teams guy this year, but a very promising and a really good transfer get.
At DB, it's Mose, it's Reddish as the younger guys coming on. They're having good camps. And I don't think there's any way Reddish is going to redshirt. No. He's in the 2D.
You're gonna need him.
We want to talk about the name of the podcast again. Jalen Jones improving his tackling.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Pride talked about. Still looking good in coverage, but he's playing corner. He's playing nickel.
It's crazy.
Along with safety. So
he's from literally 2 streets from where we're down. We're here in Scott's Addition. He's from literally like 3 streets that way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
He's got the versatility that could be very useful for us this year.
Absolutely. And, that's a position, again, you need depth at it. You're going to need to rotate guys. Injuries happen. Targeting penalties happen. Going to need depth there. And he's a guy who they feel like has made a big jump. I think they know.
Yeah.
He performed poorly at points last year. So they're making an emphasis that he made a jump.
Pry also mentioned Dorian getting better against the run, mentioned him playing nickel again. So that's something we talked about in the spring. Will Dorian play nickel? Will he have to play nickel? Whatever. I think that will help his pro prospects, just showing if you can cover a slot guy, you can cover anybody. And so he wants to play Dorian at nickel. I also think if you're going straight up nickel coverage, he's your best option.
Absolutely. And I think it also shows how much strength they have in the younger guys.
Right, because then you're putting Lovett outside.
You're putting Lovett out there.
Maybe Braylon Johnson.
Jalen Stroman at points to cover a guy as well. So, and then obviously Mansour Delane, you can put him on an island the same way you could put Strong on an island. So they feel good about DB right now.
Definitely. All right, so the offensive notes. We covered the defense. Steven Gosnell, this guy tore his ACL, as far as we know, in the bowl game, and he's nearly all the way back. Like he is, and last year, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Fontel Mine said this kid had the best offseason he's ever seen a player he had. So Steven is a hard worker, one of the hardest workers on the team. He's back from this ACL tear in basically 8 months. And I kept saying, like, Aiden Green's going to take those receptions. Aiden Green's going to do this. I'm not so sure now.
I mean, I genuinely don't know what they're going to do here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, they're not a team that throws the ball that much. They have all of these talented guys. And Gosnell was the classic. So Virginia Tech, let's get a little inside baseball here. Tech ran a lot of flood concepts, especially out to the right. And Gosnell was that middle receiver, right? So in a flood concept, you're going to have a short guy going out, middle guy going out, deep guy going out. Gosnell was that middle guy going out. And that's why he was open on a lot of those short yardage situations, because you had the safety covering up top, linebackers crushing in. He was open. That long touchdown against UVA was one of them. I don't know if it was a touchdown, but a 4th down conversion.
Oh, yeah. He had so many 3rd and 4th down conversions.
If you need a guy who just sure-handed and knows what he's doing and can block on the outside, why not?
Yeah.
Like, I think Tech is going to – I think you're going to see them rotate a bit more here early on in the season.
Well, they're going to have their options at wide receiver.
Absolutely.
I also just wanted to give Benji Gosnell a shout-out because it sounds like he's having a tremendous camp as well.
Yep.
And even HSG, Harrison St. Germain, like, it's not just the wide receivers with this team. Like,
they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know who blocks better. I know Nick Gallo is like our blocking tight end, but those younger guys, I am very excited about their potential.
Yep.
As far as the offensive line goes, Laith Ganem, a name that we know from recruiting, And last year we were like, oh, maybe Lathel, he's pushing.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about his prospects for this year?
So we've seen 3 straight practices that media has been able to be. He's been your first string left guard. What does that mean? I don't know. Offensive line coaches love to mix it up at this point in camp. We know that. Billy Ray has said that multiple times. It's a different group every drill. However, this is a highly touted recruit. He was the number 1 player in the state of West Virginia, when Virginia Tech got him. Very talented. Tech needs a player at that position. If he can step up this early in his career as a starter, that's great for Virginia Tech, because that's been a position group that Tech has struggled to recruit over the last couple cycles. So if Lath Gannon can be that guy, I'm all for it.
It's exciting, and I thought he might be a tackle, but he's definitely one of those tweeners in terms of like size and
They've
arm
talked
length.
about how athletic he is.
Yeah.
And I think that could really help with the pulling guard scenario.
Regardless, even if he doesn't become a starter, it's better depth. We're going 8-9 deep on the offensive line, where it's not something we thought we could do before. So that's really exciting. Moving to backup quarterback. Have you heard a little bit about Pop? Like, Pop is giving Colin Schlee more trouble than I expected.
So in college football terms, Colin Schlee should be the backup. And I think Colin Schlee will be the backup. And they really like what he offers. And if you watch what this guy was able to do at UCLA, what he was able to do at Kent State, he's really talented. However, Pop makes these plays in practice that I think elevates him. Like, he seems to be I don't mean this in a derogatory term, it's kind of meant to be a joke, but like a looks great in shorts quarterback. Like a guy who in a practice scenario makes great plays. And I think it's a credit to him and his ability that he's pushing a veteran like Colin Schlee, who is not only a veteran in terms of the years he's played, but he's an athletic freak. This guy's big, he's fast, he runs almost identical to Kyron Drones.
Yeah.
He's that good of a runner. I think he's actually averaged more yards per carry than Kyron Drones did last year. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be Schlee, though, and I think you're going to see him in some packages. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2-quarterback package here.
It's one thing to run with the twos. It's another thing when it's November and Drones goes out with an ankle, and you're putting a guy in there.
Like, to me right now, Pop could be the number 2 quarterback on a Tuesday, but if it's a Saturday in the fall, I think you're going to put out Colin Schlee.
But nevertheless, you want to hear the positives about Pop. I want to tell you that 2D Pokestone of the Influence is brought to you by Roback. You guys saw the latest drop. It was beautiful. They had the polos. They had the hoodie with the TV logo. You got to get that. You got to put it in your cart. You got to use code 2DBT for 20% off your order. Get the joggers. Get something for your wife, too. She's going to be mad you ordered something in $100 polo or something, so you might as well keep adding stuff to the cart.
It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, too, and it makes a great Christmas gift. The hoodies are incredible.
The hoodies are super soft. Make sure you're using our code 2DVT. Get your wife something, get yourself something. And don't forget, if you've used the code and you have an account, start a new account. Use another email. Use your work email. Come on now.
Make up a new email. They're free.
You're smart. Do it. All right. I also want to tell everyone that we are brought to you by Jack and Coke. Jack and Coke is one of the first drinks you will ever have when you get to college. And it's something that is near and dear to my heart whenever I go to Blacksburg. I like to have a Jack and Coke to remind myself of the younger days. And now it comes ready to drink, Sam.
Much easier for tailgating. Like made for tailgating, pack up the Yeti with a few Yeti, not a sponsor, but
Jack and Coke is one of the oldest drinks in the United States. 1907 is when it was first mixed. And now you can go right into the liquor store and grab it. So make sure you're doing that. Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola, the taste of a perfect match. All right. Win confidence, Sam. I asked people here at the place, I asked you, could you arrange the games this year in terms of who do we have the best chance of beating?
I did one here.
And he's looking through the pile right now. He's not going to find it.
Massive pile. I'll pull up one of my besties, Augusta, who was here today.
All right, so I'll ask you your top 3 games that you think Tech has the best chance of winning.
Marshall.
That was my number 1.
Number 1. Duke. Duke is terrible.
Oh, I had Duke lower.
Really?
UVA was my 2.
I'm gonna put UVA as the 3rd. So I'm gonna do Marshall, Duke, UVA. I think Old Dominion at Old Dominion scares me, but from a talent aspect, they're
Old
probably
Dominion's
the worst
far down the
of
list
any
for
team
me.
Tech
Yeah.
plays. Vanderbilt, you could put up there. Like, that was a bad team last year. I think any of Vanderbilt, Virginia, Old Dominion,
I think Vandy
Marshall,
was my
Duke.
number 3. So it was Marshall, UVA, Vandy. And then after that, it gets a little bit more tricky, right? So let's go to the hardest. You're the least confident you are in a Tech W.
Miami. At Miami on a Friday night.
Yeah, that was also my last place.
It's going to be a game where Tech will need Miami to have a bad game. And I don't mean that because Tech can't beat Miami mano a mano, but I mean, if Miami comes out there to play, they're not a good ACC team. They're a national title contending team with their talent if they come out to play. So you're going to need Miami to take a step back, and you're going to need them to Miami.
I had Miami as my last pick. But it's funny because I'm going around the room and I'm asking people today what they think. And Syracuse kept coming up.
The old heads, man, they can't deal with the Carrier Dome.
No one likes Syracuse. And like the confidence level is so low. But I still think it's Miami. I put Clemson 2 out of respect for Clemson, like as my second hardest one to win. I know some people feel better about that because it's at home. And
I feel better about it than Miami because it's at home, but it was my number 2.
Yeah. So we're the same on that. But Rutgers is down there for me, like in terms of low confidence.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last year, the matchup. What Rutgers is good at is what Tech last year was bad at. You know, has Tech improved enough down the spine of that defense to be able to stop Rutgers? That's going to be the question for that game.
This was also an interesting one. My buddy Brian put BC as his least confident in a win because he just hates playing BC. BC is feisty team, whatever. But it's at home on a Thursday night. How confident do you feel in that BC game?
Super, super confident. I don't think BC's good at all. I think Castellanos is an exciting player.
Yeah.
But if you look at how that team performs, they struggle in almost every game they play or they get blown out. So I think Tech on the line of scrimmage is going to dominate that game. I think Tech's wide receivers are going to dominate that game. I think it's going to look a lot like last year's score was.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Well, that's about it. I'm not going to go through the whole list because like it's too much. And we're having a good time here at Ardent. We're going to continue to have a good time. So thank you for watching. Sam, thank you for being here today. We had a great time. And thank you for all the listeners who came out. And I actually got a message on Instagram today that was like, we got sick. We wanted to be there. We couldn't be there. Even if you were considering coming, we appreciate it. Like, that is so nice.
It blows my mind that people even listen to us in the first place. Check out the website, sonsofsaturday.com/VT. The writing quality we have on there is impeccable. Rich Luttenberg, incredible features. We have 9 writers on our football beat this fall. 9. Every single day we will have multiple articles coming out this fall. Amazing content. We have a full team of Hokies behind us this year.
And you're managing all that. So credit to Sam here.
Yeah.
It's not easy work. Anyway, make sure you're subscribed, YouTube, Too Deep, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. And make sure also, if you just like us, give Billy and Pat a try. We're trying to go cross coverage here. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.